the Old Nursery Home. Located in Aberdeen, North Carolina, it has had many similar stories of bizarre experiences inside the abandoned building. The nursery home is closed off by woods and trees that darken the trail leading up to its main entrance. When you walk inside, it will amaze the eye seeing how vast and long the building is. The long hallways covered with graffiti, cobwebs, and dancing shadows that can trick any mind. On a few accounts, witnesses have experienced chairs moved from the rooms to the hallways, needles with dried blood, devilish insignias, and even burn marks where the healthy patients used to stay. One venturing group found bedroom slippers on a bed that did not have them minutes before. When they ran out of the room, the door slammed shut and the blood came gushing out from under the door. To this day, the blood stains remain. People who have tried to remodel the site have mysteriously stopped construction early in. Why is that? Was it a change of heart? Financial downfalls? Or was it the moans and grunts heard through those dark, devious hallways? The Ghosts of Biltmore. Asheville is a beautiful city within the Blue Ridge Mountains. The colorful history is shown in its crown jewel, Biltmore Estate. Personally, I have been there many times, and if you are in Asheville, Biltmore is a must-stop visit. Having been built since 1895, there are stories that have echoed through its walls, some more scary than others. One of the most bizarre stories is the headless orange cat that roams the gardens of Biltmore. To see the headless cat is to see misfortune in the near future. The most famous ghost in the house is George Vanderbilt. After passing from appendicitis in 1914, his wife started spending most of her time in the library, which was George's favorite spot. The servants would hear her talking to him, listening, then talking to him again. It's been said that after she died, you can still hear them talking in their library. According to witnesses, the conversation continues in the library at night quite often, long after both of the Vanderbilts' passing. Workers at the Biltmore estate also report unexplained sounds of laughing and screaming, as well as feeling the presence of others throughout the house. I do remember that in the pool room, there was often talks about the lady in black. The lights sometimes would flicker, and she would appear to scare the employees at the estate. Her first appearance was one account from the staff. They heard insane laughter coming from the drain at the bottom of the pool. When they investigated, they found one of the lights at the bottom of the pool flickering. Each flicker would the lady in black appear, laughing in an insane pattern. The sounds of people laughing and screaming can be heard in the dead of night when she appears. Rumors have circulated of a drowning in the pool, but no proof is to be seen. Who is this lady in black? The Brown Mountain Lights. Many have speculated who and what they are, from the Catawba and Cherokee to settlers and Civil War soldiers. The investigation became so popular, the United States government got involved. The X-Files even featured the strange story on an episode in 1999. But the features don't stop there. The lights have also been featured in a number of movies and programs, including the 2014 film Alien Abduction. They are best seen from a distance. They disappear as you climb the mountain. The lights vary in size and shape. They first were explained as ghostly apparitions that watch over the mountains. To disturb the mountains would also disturb the lights. But heading into the 20th century, the explanation turned to a more sci-fi approach. The lights have been known to dance across the skies or zip through the trees late at night. One can assume someone did discover what the lights were, and are, but have never lived to tell the tale. The Devil's Tramping Ground. Now this place, I have witnessed paranormal activity here. This place is a popular spot for the local lore in North Carolina, and has been for over a century. The 40-foot circle of land is located in a forest near the community of Bennett, and is said to be the site of some strange happenings. Stories say that no vegetation has grown in the spot for over a century, despite no reasons at all to explain why. Local legend says the devil himself uses the spot as some sort of portal into hell, and that he paces back and forth within the circle and spreads his evil across the land. Other stories say that animals won't enter into the area for some odd reason. It has been reported that animal carcasses often surround the path to this place. The site has seen some changes since it was first discovered. For one, the local church has put a big white cross on the road. Blessings are done here once a month to weaken the devil's grip on this space. Yet the trees have jagged arms, all pointing towards the spot like some form of shrine. The air is always dry and unpleasant. Clouds tend to cast small specks of light that dance with the shadows. You will find once in a while teenagers who are daring enough to spend the night in that spot. Some accounts, including myself, have heard a pig screeching in the middle of the night, only to be quickly and unexpectedly silenced. Tents that were originally in the circle are found to be outside it in the next morning. No plant that has been grown there has lived through the week. Possessions and mad delusions have transpired in some of these night outs. My personal story involves staying the night there with my friends. After spooking ourselves with stories, we decided to call it a night and go to our tents. We had a fire that was lit for more than a few hours, but 3 water bottles put the fire out no problem. However, 2 hours later in the evening, strange sounds began to be heard in the trees. Slowly we began to file into one tent, fearful of the unknown. When the crickets stopped, a light was seen in the middle of the circle. We opened the tent to find the fire was lit again. More lit than before when we put it out. How we managed to stay the rest of the night still questions my mind. Gallows Hill. Gallows Hill is a normal-looking area in a neighborhood in Wilmington, but has a gruesome past. Wilmington is a port city in the Cape Fear area in southeastern North Carolina, where executions were once a regular public spectacle. Gallows Hill is at the top of a hill where local justice was carried out in the form of hangings. Over many years, the condemned hung from gallows on this spot and were often buried in mass graves on site. Today, on the 500 block of Market Street in uptown Wilmington, at the same site, there is an architecture firm, but many people still report strange occurrences and have cited apparitions in the windows of the house on the top of Gallows Hill. The sounds of rope stretching, the sudden shadows that follow people in the streets. To know that such death took place in a now peaceful community brings an uneasy fear to the scare seeker. The Chapel of Rest. In Lenoir, North Carolina, in the early 1900s, the preacher at the time had caught his wife cheating on him, and he couldn't deal with the grief. So that coming Saturday, he decided to commit suicide off the front pew of the church. He slit his wrists and hung himself from the rafters. On Sunday morning, the congregation of the church came in to find their preacher lifeless. If you look really hard, you can see the scratches on the pews from the hard-soled shoes he was wearing. At night, people say you can see him swinging from the rafters, not able to go to heaven or hell. At the stroke of midnight, there are rumors that a Bible at the podium will tell you when, where, and how you will die. The church has had some renovations, and they have daily blessings to purify the church. But will it keep back the dark history it possesses? Lydias Bridge. Just outside of Greensboro, there is said to have been the ghost of a beautiful young girl who has been appearing in Jamestown since 1923. She stands next to the US Highway 70 underpass in a white evening gown and waves frantically for someone to stop and pick her up. Those hopeless travelers who do are introduced to a young woman who says her name is Lydia, and she has always asked them to take her to an address in High Point. She always tells them that she has spent the evening at a dance in Raleigh and is anxious to get home, having run into car trouble on the way. Just as the drivers approach the house, the girl always vanishes from their car, never opening the door and getting out. Some kids have spray painted pentagrams on it, which is kind of freaky, but also at the same time, there's a sort of eerie presence here. One report of a group of friends in the 80s that would venture there had 2 girls in this group, and every time they would get close to the bridge, the girls would pass out. The bridge has since been overgrown and is no longer in use. That is, for the living. Old Davis Hospital. One of the very first hospitals in North Carolina to use a radiograph scope to look at X-ray films, operate an around-the-clock emergency room, and install air conditioning in its operating rooms, the Old Davis Hospital is believed to be one of the state's most haunted spots. It was the setting for the horror film The Boneyard, and many who were brave enough to enter the building have described an eerie presence of former patients following them throughout the trip. A ghostly baby has also been heard crying near the pediatric ward. There is an overbearing feeling of dread throughout the entire building, and it remains cold and drafty even during the summer months when temperatures reach 100 degrees or more. Now abandoned, there's an eerie vacancy in the building, but be warned, the property is also private, so to venture would require permission. People who are brave enough and sneaky enough to go in will feel the presence of former patients following them through the halls, especially when it follows you home. The Legend of Blackbeard. There are many ghost stories that circulate around the Outer Banks thanks to pirates and shipwrecks, but none is as famous as the legend of Teach's Hole. Teach's Hole is a cove located on Ocracoke Island and is named after Edward Teach, also more known as Blackbeard the pirate. In 1718, after years of pillaging and evading authorities, Blackbeard was finally captured after a bloody battle. The governor of Virginia decided to put a stop to his piracy and sent 2 ships to defeat him. In 1718, after a furious fight, Blackbeard died at the hands of Lieutenant Robert Manyard of the Royal Navy. For his crimes, the pirate was beheaded. Legend has it, Blackbeard's head was hung from the ship's bow, for all to see, where it let out a blood-curdling, continuous scream until he finally died. His body, thrown overboard, swam around the cove trying to get to his head. After the screaming stopped, his body sank down to Davy Jones' locker. Some say, on the right night, his decapitated body can be seen swimming in the cove or walking along the beaches, hoping to be reunited with his head. The Screaming Bridge. Little Washington, North Carolina has a scary story about a certain bridge. The legend is that a woman in a cat costume with red contacts was on her way from a Halloween party to pick up her baby. After she picked up her baby, she was on her way home. While tuning the radio, it distracted her enough to run off the bridge into the river. Both she and the baby did not survive the crash. Here's where it gets spooky. Reports have been coming in. Reports of a cat-like woman walking the bridge. If you call towards her or get too close, she screams at the top of her lungs, with those red, beady eyes she had before she passed away. Other reports are of sudden cold chills and flashes of light in the river. When the wind picks up on the bridge, sometimes you can hear her wailing and crying for her lost baby.